Country music loves to act like its heartbreaks are all just part of the show, but behind those tear-stained lyrics, you'll find real connections and real stories. For decades, the bond between country music legend Bill Anderson and singer Linda Davis has been one of Nashville's most fascinating friendships. Whispers and speculation followed them for years, painting a picture of a secret mentorship and a connection that was hard to pin down. In a world where perception can make or break a career, the chatter followed them both, a constant hum beneath the music. Neither Anderson nor Davis ever gave the gossip any fuel, but the story of their bond became a quiet piece of Nashville lore. Now, at 87, with a lifetime of stories to tell, the truth of their relationship is clearer than ever. And what's revealed is a story far more complex and human than any rumor could ever be. It's not a tale of scandal, but one of loyalty, survival, and a quiet, profound respect forged in the tough world of the Nashville music machine. It's the story of a friendship that was misunderstood for years. And as it turns out, the truth is way more powerful than fiction. For decades, whispers surrounded the bond between Bill Anderson and Linda Davis, but the real story was never really told. Now, looking back from the perspective of his 87 years, the country icon's reflections shed new light on the secrets, emotions, and untold moments that fans have always wondered about. What was really going on behind the scenes? The answer lies not just in their careers, but in the quiet moments where music, mentorship, and friendship all blurred together. To understand the weight of Bill Anderson's friendship with Linda Davis, you first have to understand the man he was and still is to country music. Born James William Anderson III in Columbia, South Carolina, on November 1, 1937, he grew up with humble beginnings in Decatur, Georgia. His father was an insurance agent and his mother was a homemaker. In his own words, his childhood was average. They always had food on the table, but there wasn't a lot of money for fancy things. That grounded upbringing would give him a perspective that later defined his songwriting, an eye for the struggles and joys of everyday people. From a young age, he had two big passions, baseball and music. He was a good enough pitcher in high school to get scouted for a Chicago Cubs training camp, but music was clearly his true calling. He was captivated by the performers he'd watch at a radio station right above his father's insurance office. He saved up money from a paper route to buy his first guitar and wrote his first song, Carry Me to My Texas Home, when he was just 10 years old. His path to Nashville wasn't a straight line, though. His family wanted him to have a backup plan, so he enrolled at the University of Georgia to study journalism, a skill that would make him a master storyteller in his songs. To pay for school, he worked as a disc jockey, a job he almost got fired from when he insisted on playing country records on a rock and roll station. He just found a new job at a station in Commerce, Georgia, where his love for country music was a better fit. It was in that DJ booth that he wrote the song that changed his life, City Lights. In 1958, the legendary Ray Price recorded it, and the song became a massive hit, launching young Bill Anderson straight into the Nashville stratosphere. Almost overnight, he wasn't just a songwriter anymore. He was a recording artist with Decca Records. His own hits started rolling in, but it was his unique vocal delivery that really set him apart. In an era of big, booming voices, Anderson's was soft, breathy, and felt like a conversation. It earned him the nickname Whisperin' Bill, a name that perfectly captured his intimate and personal style. He made a song feel less like a performance and more like a secret being shared just with you. Throughout the 1960s and 70s, he was a force to be reckoned with. His own singles, like the huge 1963 crossover hits Still, I Love You Drops, and I Get the Fever, were constantly climbing the charts. But you could argue his greatest influence was as a songwriter for other artists. He had a gift for capturing complicated emotions in simple, relatable words. He wrote Connie Smith's first major hit, Once a Day, and was key in getting her a record deal. He wrote hits for artists like Porter Wagoner and his duet partner Jan Howard. His name became a seal of approval that could launch an artist's career. By the time the 80s and 90s rolled around, Anderson was an institution. He was a member of the Grand Ole Opry, a TV host, and a respected elder statesman. His personal life, however, had seen some turbulence. He and his first wife, Bet Rhodes, divorced in 1969, and a second marriage to Becky Davis ended in 1997. He had known the kind of personal heartbreak he so often wrote about, which probably made him more guarded about his private life. Here was a man who built a career on telling stories, yet he kept his own story close to his chest. He was known for being discreet and never feeding the gossip columns. This was the man who stood at the center of Nashville's social and professional scene, a respected, powerful figure. And it was into this world that a young, ambitious singer from Texas would soon arrive, looking for her own shot at the spotlight. Her name was Linda Davis, and her path was about to cross with Whisperin' Bill, sparking a friendship that would be talked about for decades. Long before she was a Grammy winner and the mother of a country superstar, Linda Davis was a small-town girl with a powerhouse voice and a big dream. Born Linda K. Davis on November 26, 1962, in Dodson, Texas, her life was all about music from the very beginning. Growing up, music was, as she put it, her pastime, my passion, and my hobby. She first sang in public at just 6 years old, a little preview of the career that was waiting for her. As a teenager, she performed on the famous Louisiana Hayride, a radio show known as the Cradle of Stars for launching giants like Elvis Presley and Willie Nelson. It was a huge deal for an aspiring artist and only made her want it more. By the time she was 20, she knew she had to move to where country music was being made, Nashville. It was a scary leap, leaving her home and family behind for a city famous for chewing up and spitting out aspiring singers. But she went for it. Her early years in Nashville were a grind. She wasn't an overnight success. She started out singing in nightclubs and hotels to pay the bills and sharpen her skills. She even worked as a receptionist at a studio, singing demos and jingles every chance she got. Her first shot at the charts was as part of a duo called Skip and Linda, but they only had a few minor singles in the early 80s. After the duo split, Davis found steady work as a background vocalist, and this turned out to be her real stepping stone. The job required more than just talent. It took precision, versatility, and knowing how to blend in perfectly. She became one of Nashville's most in-demand vocalists, singing on albums for big stars like Kenny Rogers. It was during this time she started building a reputation inside the industry. She was a singer's singer, respected by musicians and producers for her incredible voice and professionalism. Even with all that talent, solo stardom was just out of reach. She signed with Epic Records and later Liberty Records, releasing her first solo album in 1991, but none of the singles managed to break the top 40. In a business driven by radio hits, she was having a tough time finding her footing as a solo artist. But her work as a backing vocalist put her on the radar of one of the biggest stars in country music, Reba McEntire. McEntire hired Davis to sing in her road band, which gave her priceless experience touring and performing for massive crowds. It was a period of intense learning, where she soaked up everything about the business, from the grueling tour schedules to the pressure of performing at the highest level every single night. This was the Linda Davis that Nashville knew in the late 80s and early 90s, a hugely talented vocalist who had paid her dues and earned the respect of her peers, but was still waiting for her big break. She had the voice and the work ethic. All she needed was the right opportunity. It was during this time, as she was navigating the tricky waters of the music industry, that her path began to cross with Bill Anderson's. He was a legend from a different generation, a man who had literally shaped the sound of country music. He had a great eye for talent, and in Linda Davis, he saw something special. Their meeting wasn't some big, headline-making event. It happened quietly, the way things often do in Nashville, but it would set in motion a chain of events that would change her career and spark one of country music's most enduring friendships. By The time Linda Davis was making her name as one of Nashville's most reliable session singers, Bill Anderson was already a living legend. His opinion carried a lot of weight in Music City. For an artist like Linda, getting to know someone of his stature wasn't just a meeting, it was a potential game changer. Their connection started quietly. Anderson, who always had an ear for new talent, noticed Davis. He saw more than just a great voice. He saw an artist who had the classic country sound he loved, but with a fresh delivery that felt modern. In a Nashville that was changing fast in the late 80s and early 90s, with pop crossover, hits becoming the norm, Davis's authentic voice stood out. Anderson had a reputation for mentoring younger artists, and in Davis, he seemed to recognize a kindred spirit. So, a classic mentorship began. Anderson offered her advice, sharing his knowledge of how the music business really worked. He gave her performance opportunities that helped her grow and get in front of new audiences. For Davis, this was huge. Having someone like Bill Anderson in her corner was a powerful vote of confidence. In a town where she was still fighting for her big break, his belief in her signaled to the rest of the industry that she was the real deal. When a veteran of his caliber vouched for an artist, doors that were once closed had a way of creaking open. His endorsement gave her credibility and the confidence she needed to be ready for bigger things. The mentorship wasn't just about opening doors, it was about preparing her for what was on the other side. Anderson's guidance was practical. He would have shared lessons on stage presence, connecting with an audience, and dealing with record label politics. Their professional collaborations were significant. They shared stages, and their paths kept overlapping in a way that Nashville noticed. Through these interactions, Anderson was sending a clear message to the industry. Linda Davis is a talent you need to take seriously. This period was a turning point for Davis. With Anderson's encouragement, she stepped more boldly into the spotlight. It's no coincidence that her biggest career breakthrough came during this time. In 1993, she recorded the iconic duet, Does He Love You, with Reba McEntire. The song was a monster hit. It shot to #1, becoming Davis's first and only chart topper. It went on to win a Grammy Award and a CMA Award for Vocal Event of the Year. This was the moment that made Linda Davis a household name. And while Bill Anderson wasn't directly involved in that duet, people in Nashville understood the groundwork he had laid. His early support and unwavering belief had helped her build the resilience she needed when that once-in-a-lifetime opportunity came along. Their paths crossing seemed almost destined, but this powerful connection also carried an undercurrent of curiosity, one that would soon get the Nashville chatter going. As Linda Davis's star rose after Does He Love You, the chatter around her connection to Bill Anderson grew. The story of their friendship started to take on a life of its own. Country music fans love a good story, and their curiosity about the private lives of stars is just as strong. Bill Anderson and Linda Davis became the subjects of a story whispered in studios and green rooms across Music City. The speculation wasn't fueled by any scandal, but by something more subtle, the visible warmth and closeness between the two. When they appeared together, whether in interviews or at industry events, their easy comfort with one another was obvious. To some, it looked exactly like what it was, a deeply respectful, almost fatherly mentorship. But to others, the chemistry seemed to hint at something more. The Nashville press, always looking for a good story, took notice. Anderson was a notoriously private man, especially after 2 divorces, and his discretion only made the whispers grow louder. Why did he hold this particular artist in such high regard? For Linda Davis, the attention was a mixed blessing. Being closely associated with a legend like Bill Anderson certainly raised her profile. But in an era when female artists were often judged unfairly by their associations, that kind of speculation could be tricky to navigate. To her credit, Davis handled it all with grace. She never addressed the chatter directly, choosing to let her incredible talent do the talking. She just focused on her work, building on the success of her duet with Reba and carving out her own space as an artist. Anderson also remained silent on the matter. He was a gifted storyteller who was never shy in an interview, but when it came to Linda Davis, he was guarded. He would generously praise her talent, her work ethic, and her voice, and coming from him, that praise was invaluable to her career. But he never commented on their personal bond, refusing to give the gossip columns the soundbite they wanted. This very silence, however, became part of the story. In Nashville, what isn't said is often more powerful than what is. Their refusal to address the speculation allowed it to simmer for years. Beneath all the noise, the truth was probably simpler, but no less profound. They shared a genuine friendship and a deep, mutual respect. The association kept Davis connected to country's rich history, while her success validated Anderson's reputation as a mentor who could still spot true greatness. But the world outside their circle of trust was more interested in drama than friendship. The silence they maintained, likely to protect themselves from the industry's harsh glare, ironically, created the perfect space for speculation to grow. As the years went by, fans and insiders alike were left to wonder about the real story between Bill Anderson and Linda Davis. For decades, the story of Bill Anderson and Linda Davis remained mostly defined by those whispers from the 1990s. Both artists continued their incredible careers, and while their paths would still cross with the same display of mutual respect, the full story remained a quiet piece of Nashville history. Now, at 87, as he reflects on his life and legacy, Bill Anderson's words have finally brought the truth into focus. But it wasn't a shocking confession. What he revealed, through recent interviews and warm recollections, was something far more meaningful. It wasn't a story about a hidden romance, but one that speaks to a deeper truth about loyalty and survival in the public eye. Looking back, their quiet discretion seems less like hiding a secret and more like a professional choice. In the Nashville of that era, a single rumor or a complicated association could be used to unfairly undermine an artist's career, especially a female artist trying to establish her own name. Their silence wasn't an admission of anything. It was a shield, a practical way to protect a valued friendship from the often unforgiving industry spotlight. The heart of the story, as it's now understood, is about loyalty. Recent interviews confirm that Anderson holds Davis in the highest regard, not for any dramatic reason, but because of her steadfast character and talent. In an industry where alliances can be temporary, their bond was built on genuine mutual respect. His words cast their entire history in a new light. The warmth that people noticed wasn't a sign of a secret affair. It was the glow of a real friendship between two artists who understood the sacrifices the other had made. The real story, as it turns out, wasn't a scandal at all. It was a story of a profound friendship and mentorship that was forced into the shadows by the very industry they loved. The mystery wasn't in their relationship, but in a culture that often prioritized perception over people, forcing them to be discreet about something as pure as loyalty. By reflecting on their history, Bill Anderson has done more than just clear up an old Nashville rumor. He's offered a powerful look at the nature of fame and the personal cost of a public life. His praise for Linda Davis is a testament to how legends build their legacies far beyond just hit songs. They do it through the lives they touch and the people they support. The truth, after all these years, is that the most powerful story isn't always about scandal. Sometimes it's about the quiet, enduring bonds of friendship that stand the test of time. The story of Bill Anderson and Linda Davis, once clouded by years of rumor, has finally found its true voice. Through Anderson's recent reflections, we see a story that's about so much more than gossip. It's a story of a vital mentorship that helped a deserving artist find her moment. It's a story of a deep, lasting friendship that offered support away from the stage lights. And above all, it's a story of two people who navigated the ruthless world of country music by choosing to protect their bond with quiet integrity. Their journey reminds us that the best stories in music history aren't always the dramatic ones. Sometimes they're found in the quiet acts of loyalty and the unspoken understanding between two friends. Bill Anderson's reflections don't just clarify the past, they celebrate a timeless friendship and the quiet character that has defined his legendary career. What do you think about the pressures artists face in the public eye? Does knowing the true story change how you view their music? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy deep dives into the untold stories of country music, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update.